My daughter got kicked out by her dad, then demanded I evict my stepson for her. I am sitting here in my car, parked 2 blocks away from my own house, just so I can have a moment of absolute silence to process the explosion that just occurred in my living room. My hands are still shaking as I type this. I've been a mother for over 20 years, and I've dealt with tantrums, teenage rebellion, and the complexities of a blended family, but today felt like a breaking point I never saw coming. I'm a 39-year-old woman, and my life is a series of interconnected chapters that I've worked incredibly hard to keep from collapsing. I had my oldest daughter when I was just a teenager. Her father and I were kids, and we grew up alongside her. That experience taught me everything about survival and responsibility. Today, that daughter is grown and has a child of her own, making me a grandmother, a role I cherish because it reminds me how far I've come. Then there is my middle daughter, 21. She has always been different. While my oldest was independent and driven, my middle daughter has struggled with a sense of entitlement that I've never been able to curb, no matter how much therapy or tough love we tried. A year ago, the tension in my house reached a boiling point. I had been married to my current husband for 3 years. When I moved into his home, we were very careful about the transition. He has 3 children from his previous marriage, a 16-year-old son and 14-year-old twin daughters. My husband is a provider through and through. He bought this house specifically because it had 3 designated bedrooms for his kids, so they would never feel like visitors in their own home. The layout is simple. The master bedroom, ours. Bedroom 2, the largest, my stepson's room. He's the oldest of his siblings and has been in that room since he was a toddler. Bedroom 3, the twins' room. The nursery, a small converted space for our 2-year-old daughter. We are planning an extension next year to give her a proper room. When my 21-year-old daughter lived here, she had a room, but she hated the rules. My rules were basic. If you aren't working or in school, you need to contribute to the housework. No loud music after 11 p.m. because of the toddler and the other kids. Common courtesy. She called me oppressive. She said I was treating her like a child and that she deserved to live somewhere that respected her autonomy. She decided to move in with her father and his wife, her stepmother. She told me, quite cruelly, that they were actual adults who wouldn't stifle her vibe. I let her go. I cried, but I let her go, hoping she'd find the independence she claimed to want. Fast forward to yesterday. She called me crying. She said she missed me. She said she was lonely for her sisters and wanted to move back to be closer to her friends. The mother in me wanted to believe her. The teen mom survivor in me knew better. I called her father. I've known him for 20 years. We don't always get along, but we have a mutual understanding regarding our kids. He was blunt. She's not here, he told me. Her bags are on the porch. My wife is done. I'm done. Apparently, she had treated their home like a free resort. She was disrespectful to her stepmother, refused to help with anything, and eventually, a massive argument broke out where she said some truly unforgivable things to her stepmother. Her stepmother cut her off entirely, phones, car insurance, everything. Her father stood by his wife, forming a united front. They told her she was no longer welcome. She wasn't coming home because she missed me. She was coming home because she was out of options. Despite knowing she lied, I told her she could come over to talk. When she arrived, she didn't look like someone who was humbled. She looked like someone who was ready to reclaim her territory. I sat her down in the kitchen. My husband was in the garage, giving us space, but staying close enough to step in if things got heated. I talked to your dad, I said. I know why you're really here. She didn't even flinch. She just shrugged and said, they're being dramatic. Stepmom is a psycho. Anyway, I need my old room back. Your old room is being used, honey. I explained as calmly as I could. The house is full. But we have a temporary solution. One of the twins is going to Europe next month for an exchange program. Her room will be empty for a few months. You can stay in there while we help you find a job and a place of your own. Until she leaves next month, you'll have to use the couch. She looked at me like I had suggested she sleep in a gutter. The couch? For a month? And then a shared room? No. I'm 21. I need my own space. She stood up and started walking through the hallway, opening doors as if she were a landlord inspecting a property. She stopped at my stepson's room. Why can't I just have this one, she asked. It's the biggest. He's just a kid. He can go in with the twins or take the couch. He's a boy, he won't care. I have way more clothes and stuff than him anyway. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. The entitlement was dripping off her words. My stepson is 16. He is a good kid, quiet, studious, and he has been nothing but welcoming to me since I married his father. This is his home. No, I said. My voice was low. That is his room. He lives here full-time. You are a guest who is returning after walking out. You do not get to displace a child from his bedroom because you want it. It's not just because I want it, it's logic, she snapped. I'm your daughter. Your actual blood. Why are you prioritizing a stepkid over me? Don't I come first? My husband walked in from the garage at that point. He had heard her through the door. He didn't yell. He has this very calm, very terrifying dad voice when he's been pushed too far. This is my son's house, my husband said. He has lived in that room for years. He is a minor under my protection. You are an adult who was invited back as a favor. If you want that specific room so badly, the premium room, then you can pay for it. Market rate rent. $800 a month, plus utilities. If you can pay, we can discuss the logistics of moving people around. If you can't pay, you take the twins' room or the couch. Those are the rules of this house. He knew she didn't have $8 to her name, let alone $800. She turned on me, her eyes welled up with victim tears. Are you going to let him talk to me like that? You're my mother. You're supposed to have my back. You're choosing them over me. I'm choosing fairness, I said. I'm choosing the child who actually lives here and respects this home over the adult who lied to me about why she was coming back and immediately started making demands. That was when the mask slipped completely. She didn't call me Mom. She used my legal first name. You've always been a terrible mother, she spat. You were a teen mom, you probably didn't even want me. You're just trying to make up for your failed life by being a perfect stepmom to these brats. You're pathetic. You'd rather let your own daughter sleep on a couch than make a teenager move his PlayStation. I was stunned. I've spent 21 years trying to give her a life better than the one I started with. I worked 3 jobs when she was a baby to make sure she had the right shoes, the right clothes, the right food. I didn't finish my own degree until I was 30 because I put her needs first. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I didn't see my little girl. I saw a stranger who was trying to burn down my home because she couldn't have the biggest room in it. Get out, I said. What? You heard me. Get out of my house. You were invited here as a guest. Guests do not insult their hosts. They do not demand the bedrooms of the children who live here. And they certainly do not disrespect me in my own kitchen. If you think I'm such a terrible mother, then go find a better one. But you aren't staying here. I have nowhere to go, she screamed. Dad won't take me back. I have no money. Then I guess you should have thought about that before you got yourself kicked out of your dad's house and before you started screaming at me. I replied. You can go to a shelter or you can call your friends. But if you insist on this behavior, you are not welcome here. Period. She grabbed her bags, hurling every insult in the book at me as she went. She called me a traitor. She called my husband a manipulator. She slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall in the hallway. It's been 24 hours. My oldest daughter called me this morning. She's caught in the middle. She told me our middle sister is distraught and sleeping in her car, which she probably shouldn't even have, since her stepmother was paying for it. My oldest thinks I was too harsh and that I should have just let her stay on the couch and ignored the comments about the room. But I know my daughter. If I let her stay after she showed me that much disrespect, she would have made my stepson's life a living hell. She would have bullied him until he gave up the room just to have peace. My husband is standing by me, but I can see the toll it's taking on him. He feels guilty that his kids are the reason for the rift, even though I keep telling him it's not his kids, it's my daughter's entitlement. I feel like a failure. I feel like the teen mom stereotype that everyone whispered about when I was 19, that I wouldn't be able to raise a functional adult. But I also feel like if I don't draw this line now, she will never, ever grow up. So, Reddit, am I the asshole? Am I really choosing my stepson over my daughter? Or am I just protecting my home from a person who refused to follow the rules and tried to displace a child? The house feels quiet now, but it's a heavy kind of quiet. My 2-year-old keeps asking where Sissy went, and I don't even know what to tell her. I don't know if my daughter will ever speak to me again, and a part of me, the saddest, most broken part of me, is almost relieved by that. Am I the whole? Update. I didn't expect to come back here so soon, but a lot has happened since I posted, and honestly, I think I needed a few days to sit with everything before I could even explain it properly. Writing the first post felt like I was still inside the explosion. Now it feels more like I'm standing in the smoke afterward, trying to figure out what actually burned down and what's still standing. The night after she left, I barely slept. Every sound outside made me check my phone because I kept imagining her parked somewhere nearby, angry and scared, refusing to come back, but also refusing to leave. I kept replaying the argument over and over, wondering if there was a single sentence I could have worded differently that would have changed the outcome. Not softened it, because I still don't believe giving her my stepson's room was ever an option, but maybe prevented things from escalating to the point where she walked out entirely. Morning came with that strange normalcy that feels almost offensive after a family crisis. My toddler wanted cereal. My husband had to leave for work. The twins were arguing about whose turn it was to use the bathroom. Life moved forward as if nothing catastrophic had happened, while I felt like I was walking around with a crack running straight through my chest. My stepson avoided me at breakfast. Not in an angry way, just cautiously polite. He's always been sensitive to tension, and I could tell he felt guilty even though no one blamed him. When he finally spoke, he asked quietly if my daughter hated him now. That question hit harder than anything she yelled during the argument. A 16-year-old shouldn't feel responsible for adult conflicts, especially one he didn't create. I reassured him that none of this was his fault, and that adults sometimes struggle with boundaries, but I could see he didn't fully believe it. Kids internalize things whether you want them to or not. Later that afternoon, my oldest daughter called again. Her tone was softer than the day before. She admitted her sister had contacted her asking for money and a place to stay, but my oldest couldn't take her in either because her apartment is tiny and she has a baby. Apparently, my middle daughter expected immediate rescue and became angry when that didn't happen. Hearing that didn't make me feel vindicated. It just made me tired. What surprised me most was learning that my daughter hadn't been completely honest with anyone about what happened at my house. According to the version she told others, I slammed the door on her the moment she arrived and chose my new family over her without discussion. The argument about the bedroom was conveniently minimized. At first that hurt deeply, but after thinking about it longer, I realized it fit a pattern I'd seen for years. When consequences appear, the narrative shifts so responsibility lands somewhere else. 2 days after the blowout, she finally texted me. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even anger. It was a single message asking if she could come by to pick up some old clothes she had left behind months ago. I stared at the message for a long time before answering. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately just to see her and make sure she was okay. Another part of me knew that reopening the door without boundaries would undo everything. I told her she could come by while my husband was home and that we would leave the bag on the porch. I kept it neutral and calm. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji, which somehow felt colder than yelling. When she arrived, I watched through the window without meaning to. She grabbed the bag quickly and avoided looking toward the house. For a moment, I almost opened the door anyway, but something stopped me. Not pride, not anger, just the understanding that another confrontation without change would only restart the cycle. That evening, my husband and I had one of the longest conversations we've had since getting married. He admitted he worried I would eventually resent him or his children because the conflict centered around them. I told him the truth. This situation didn't begin with our blended family. The entitlement issues existed long before I met him. The difference now is that there are more people affected when boundaries aren't enforced. Blended families create complicated emotional math. Love isn't divided evenly. Responsibility multiplies instead. I realized I wasn't choosing one child over another. I was choosing stability over chaos. My stepson didn't win anything. He simply kept the space that had always been his. My daughter wasn't rejected because she's less loved. She was refused because she demanded control over a household she doesn't contribute to. A few days later, my ex called me directly, which almost never happens unless something serious is going on. He sounded exhausted. He admitted that kicking her out had been harder than he expected, but that their home had become unbearable. Arguments every night, refusal to work, disrespect toward his wife that escalated into personal attacks. He told me he supported the boundary I set, even if it looked harsh from the outside. Hearing that didn't make me feel better, but it removed the lingering doubt that maybe I had overreacted compared to him. Around this time, extended families started inserting themselves into the situation. An aunt messaged me saying I should always prioritize blood. A cousin suggested that letting her stay temporarily wouldn't have hurt anyone. Those comments stung because they came from people who weren't offering housing themselves. It's easy to recommend unlimited compassion when it doesn't disrupt your own home. The hardest moment came unexpectedly when my toddler asked again where her sister was. She carried one of my daughter's old hair clips and wanted to give it back to her. I told her that her sister was staying somewhere else for a while and that adults sometimes need space to figure things out. She accepted that answer immediately, then went back to playing. Children adapt faster than adults, but their innocence makes everything feel heavier. A week after the argument, my daughter called late at night. Her voice sounded tired rather than angry. She told me she had been staying with a friend temporarily, but that it wasn't a long-term solution. For the first time, she didn't demand anything. She asked what she would need to do if she ever wanted to come back. That question mattered more than any apology would have at that moment. I told her calmly that the conditions hadn't changed: respect for everyone in the home, willingness to work or attend school, contribution to household responsibilities, and acceptance of available space rather than negotiation over someone else's room. I explained that rebuilding trust would take time and consistency, not promises made during a crisis. She was quiet for a long time before saying she needed to think about it. The conversation ended without resolution, but it felt different. Less combative. More real. Since then, things at home have settled into an uneasy normal. The twins are preparing for the exchange trip, excited and nervous. My stepson has relaxed again and spends evenings doing homework at the kitchen table like before. My husband checks in on me more often than usual, probably worried I'm carrying guilt alone. Some days I am. Other days I feel oddly peaceful, like a boundary that should have existed years ago finally became real. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on my years as a teen mother. Back then, survival meant saying yes to everything because I was terrified of failing. I overcompensated constantly, trying to prove I was capable despite starting young. Somewhere along the way, saying yes became automatic, even when it hurt me or enabled unhealthy behavior. This situation forced me to confront the difference between support and rescue. Support helps someone stand. Rescue prevents them from learning how. I still worry about her constantly. Every unknown number makes my heart jump. I check social media more than I should, just to confirm she's active somewhere and safe. Loving a child doesn't turn off when they become an adult who makes destructive choices. It just becomes quieter and heavier. My oldest daughter visited last weekend with my granddaughter. She admitted she understands my decision better now after hearing more details. Watching her parent her own child has given her perspective she didn't have before. She told me something that stuck with me. Boundaries don't mean love disappears. They mean love has structure. I don't know what will happen next. Maybe my middle daughter will come back willing to accept the rules. Maybe she'll stay angry for years. Maybe this will be the moment she finally learns independence. Or maybe it will just be another chapter in a long pattern of conflict. I can't control that part anymore. What I do know is that my home feels stable again. The younger kids feel secure. My marriage isn't strained by constant tension. And despite the guilt that still sneaks in during quiet moments, I no longer feel like I betrayed one child to protect another. I protected the environment that all of them depend on. If she calls tomorrow ready to rebuild, I'll answer. If she needs help finding resources, I'll help. But the rules won't change because changing them would mean undoing the only lesson any of us might actually learn from this. I still don't know if people will think I handled it perfectly. I'm sure I didn't. Parenting rarely looks clean from the inside. But I no longer feel like the villain sitting in my car 2 blocks away from home. I feel like a mother who finally understood that loving someone sometimes means refusing to rearrange everyone else's life around their refusal to grow. And for now, that has to be enough. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.